Sample number 2 is interfacing. Interfacing is a very important part of any garment. It is used to add stability to your fabric. It can very much change the character of the fabric by making it more rigid. It's also used behind closures like buttons, buttonholes, snaps, collars, wherever you need a little more stability or to strengthen those fabric yarns. Just like in textiles, you have interfacing that is woven, you have interfacing that is knit, and you have a non-woven interfacing, which is probably the most common interfacing you'll use. The woven interfacing are the fabric yarns, and they are actually woven together at right angles. This is used a lot in more tailored clothing because the yarns make it very stable. The next type of interfacing is the knit, and again, it's those yarns that are interlocked, and it gives it some stretch. These directions that come with your interfacing are always important. It says how to apply it to your fabric. So knit interfacing, you can see, has some stretch, and obviously you would want to use a knit interfacing with a knit fabric to keep that stretchability. The last one is called non-woven interfacing, and what that means is they take the fibers and they just mush them, melt them together. So they're not woven, they're not knit, it's kind of like a felt. They're just heat condensed together, and it is a non-woven, which means it will not tear on grain, and it's a very lightweight interfacing. It's also probably the most common interfacing we'll use in class. Now, these instructions are important because there are two main features of interfacing, and they're very important. Interfacing can be either fusible or non-fusible, which is the same as sewing. Okay, what they mean by fusible is that on the back of the interfacing, on one side only, there is glue, and it enables you to actually adhere it directly to the fabric with the glue. What the instructions tell you is whether it is a dry heat that you use to apply the interfacing, or if you need moisture to activate the glue and make it adhere to the fabric. If you do not have fusible interfacing, you will have sew-in interfacing. And what sew-in interfacing means is that it does not have any glue. It used to be the only type of interfacing available. What you do is you actually sew it to each fabric piece that requires interfacing. You can see using an interfacing that has glue is going to really strengthen those yarns. It's going to, glue those yarns together and make them that much stronger. So we have fusible interfacing. Sew-in interfacing means it has no glue on the back. Non-woven means that it's like felt. It's just a lot of little fibers that are, somehow bound together, and that is non-woven. And then you have your knit interfacing that has some stretch. The most common interfacing and what is recommended to use in this class is a fusible, non-woven interfacing. It's the most common interfacing you'll find. Interfacings also come in different colors. There's a neutral, natural color, there is black, and there is white. Those are your three most common interfacings, because you wouldn't want to interface a dark fabric with white and have it affect the end appearance of the fabric. When you are choosing interfacing, there's also different weight of interfacing. This is what comes up with the stability or affecting the change of the fabric. Very, very light interfacing obviously would be used on very light fabric. If you're sewing a very heavy bag out of something like an upholstery fabric, this would not do much. It would strengthen it to put a closure on it, but it's not going to really affect the fabric or give it any change in its appearance. You probably would want to use a heavier interfacing for a heavier fabric. So you try to match your interfacing with your fabric unless your goal is to completely change the structure of your fabric with the interfacing, which is a possibility. If you had a very lightweight silk and you backed it with a very rigid, stable interfacing, you've turned that silk now into a very stable, rigid fabric, which sometimes is the goal. That's interfacing. It is a big part of sewing construction, so you should understand interfacing.